Good day to you, wherever you may be. Today, I would like to talk to you about Bernie Sanders' free college for everybody. I'm Wheelgun Dan. Visit wheelgundan.com directly for all my latest activities and offerings. Let's get into it. So, Bernie Sanders, who many of you may have heard of, has this idea where he has been advocating for a long time that he would provide free college for everybody, and using that as a way to try and get elected to president and all that kind of stuff. So I thought I would explain that to you because I don't think you're being told everything that there is to know on that subject. So it's a highly popular notion, the idea of providing free college to everybody, and I know the argument that the government's already providing free education, K through 12. I have some commentary on that as well. Well, we'll get to that a little bit later, perhaps. But the part that I don't think anybody is telling you about is this. Bernie Sanders also is an advocate of taxing everybody 91%. The number may change a little bit, but that's the number that I remember is the 91%. So basically you get a job, and then you get taxed 91%. Let's take a look at, first of all, why do you want to go to college in the first place? Okay. Or even a vocational school, any school, whether it's college or otherwise. If you want to go to college, you want to learn some kind of skill, some kind of craft, some kind of trade. It doesn't matter to me if it's a vocational school or if it's a college or whatever. The whole purpose of going to school and receiving education, any kind of school, is so that you can have something by which you can then go and provide some kind of a meaningful product, goods, or services of value, and in return, you receive a paycheck. So you have to produce something of value that someone else is willing to pay for, essentially. Nobody is going to give you free money without getting something in return. Generally speaking, I understand there's gifts and Christmas time and all that stuff. I'm talking about for a career. The world is not going to pay you to simply be a nice person. You're going to have to produce something of value. And so that's why you go to school to get this whole thing. So let's say, for instance, under Bernie Sanders' plan, you go to college, okay? And he pays for you to go to college, okay? So now you get free college. Fantastic. I don't care, 2 years, 4 years, whatever it is. You get your free college. Great. Now you've got some skills. You can go out into the workforce and you can make a lot of money with this whole college thing. That's one of the things that people advertise for colleges, is that you want to go to a particular college. You want to get a college education so that you can then go and make a lot of money. Fantastic. Okay. So great. So how did Bernie Sanders then, let's say in a fictitious scenario here, he was able to get in a position where he could provide you your free college, okay? Money had to come from somewhere, right? Well, it comes from those taxes, that 91% tax that he wants to tax everybody with, okay? So this is all very hypothetical here because this plan wouldn't actually work, but I'm not, for the sake of argument, let's say that it would. So essentially his plan is this: you go to college, you get free college. Fantastic. Now you graduate, you go and you get your job, and you're making a lot of money. And so then what happens is, according to the other side of Bernie Sanders' plan that he doesn't tell you about, you get taxed 91% at a rate of 91%. So all you have left to live off of is the 9%. I'm tired. So you got 9% of what your earnings are. Let's say you make I'll just make up numbers here. So you make $100,000 a year, you get taxed 91% of that. All you got left is single digit thousands of dollars to live off of for the entire year. Okay. So that 91% that you're now paying in taxes goes to pay for the other people who are now getting ready to go into college. You've already been to college. Now there's others who are now trying to go to college. You're paying for them to go to college because you're getting taxed 91%. So at first you get to go to college for free, but then once you get out of college, then you start going to work. Your first year on the job, you get taxed 91% according to the Bernie Sanders plan, and that money goes to, a lot of different things, I suppose, but including which you're now paying for the other guy behind you to go to college, and so he can get his free college, right? And that's just your first year. Then the next year, you are still in the same job. You then earn another big bunch of money because you got a college education. Then the second year, you're paying for somebody else's college again. Okay? Somebody else is getting free college, and now you're paying for it 2 years in a row. Then your third year on the job, you earn a whole bunch of money. 91% of it gets taken away. You have table scraps worth of income. You left to go and buy the kind of things that you want to buy, while you pay for a third person to have free college who's coming up behind you. And so then this basically goes on for the rest of your life. So if you're going to vote for a candidate, for instance, who is saying we're going to give you free college, and then they're going to pay for this free college by taxing you 91%, then basically, you get free college up front, great, but then you're going to be paying for everybody else's free college every single year for the rest of your life. That's the part that Bernie Sanders and all these others who are advocating for such a thing are not telling you. So what happens then is that eventually you get sick and tired of going to work where all your money's taken away from the government. You have lousy motivation. The economy's terrible because now you don't have any money to go spend on nice things, and the whole system basically collapses. So, at some point, people need to realize there's this thing called capitalism, and what it does is it makes not only certain few people very, very, very wealthy, but that wealth, believe it or not, really does trickle down to every single individual person who participates in that same economy. So the guy who made McDonald's a huge international success, he made a staggering amount of money. But the people who work in the McDonald's don't make as much money as the guy who founded the company. Okay? So we're back to a principle then of when you go to college, when you go to school, and you participate in capitalism, which is exactly what you're doing. You may like capitalism, you may not like capitalism, but that's exactly what you're doing if you go to work and you get a paycheck, which you are entitled to, I presume. You're doing a good job, doing something of value. You're producing something of value. You get a paycheck. That thing that you do has to be relevant to how much value you produce than how much your paycheck is. So if you want more money, you have to produce something of greater value that can be sold at a greater price than the amount that you have left over for yourself. Maybe I'll get into this, in more depth on another day. But for now, I just want everyone to understand that when politicians get on the air, the radio, wherever you hear them, they use a lot of very vague terms. They talk about rich people are bad. There's no such thing as rich people in the sense that the amount of money or the amount of wealth that a person has is relative to something else. If you're in the United States, everybody is considered rich, even if you're broke. That's another relative term. A person who becomes the first billionaire ever elected as president of the United States only has, let's say, a couple of $1 billion. Okay, now to you, maybe that's a lot of money. But to somebody else who I can think of right now who has $20 billion, that's not really a lot of money. And then to the guy who has $20 billion, that's nothing to this other guy I know of who is the first trillionaire in the United States. Rich is relative. So don't get hung up on vague terms like rich people and evil and greedy and all that kind of stuff. Anywhere that capitalism has done correctly, there's a wrong way to do it and there's a right way to do it. Whenever capitalism is done correctly, anyway, more on that another time. So on the subject of free college, Wheelgun Dan has an idea of how everybody can get free college without necessarily spending any more money than we are currently doing. This is just my idea, and I'm going to share that with everybody because that's what I do. So I have noticed that in the educational system in the United States of America, okay, we have, kindergarten through 12th grade, high school completes at 12th grade. And so it takes 12 years to go from first grade to 12th grade, right? So the rate at which human beings are capable of learning information and everything is greater than what we see in the United States. The United States kind of slows, in my humble assessment, slows down the education process, so they take an entire year to cover a certain amount of material, whereas I believe that people are capable of learning greater amounts of material in a shorter amount of time. And the reason I say that is because there's a lot of other countries that are doing the very same thing. Now, I'm not suggesting that we cut out summer vacation. I'm a huge fan of summer vacation, always was. Keep summer vacation in there. Love it. Okay? Very important too, I think. I don't think anyone should go to school, year round, not children anyways. So the pace at like in Japan or maybe some other countries where they cover an awful lot of ground and they get to much higher levels of education in the same amount of time that it takes students in the United States to go from first grade to 12th grade, I think that we can, squeeze at least the first two levels of college above 12th grade, the first two levels of college. I think we can squeeze that into the same 12 years it takes to go from first grade to 12th grade. We have to just change our lifestyle or something like that and just get accustomed to receiving information more quickly. I've observed this concept in another way as well. There was a time, once upon a time, long time ago, I was a computer training instructor for a living, and the amount of material that I was able to communicate to a class in 6 hours I had people who've been to college, they said they've had that same subject covered in their college classes where it takes an entire quarter, semesters, quarters, I don't know about all that stuff. I'm vocational trained, so you maybe know more about that than I. But this tells me that people in America, they're smart, just like anybody else. And if you are provided a good education, you can learn more material than we are currently learning at the pace that we're learning now. And believe me, I'm fully aware that not everybody can do that. We do have special needs individuals, and there are special education teachers and all that. I get all that. If you have some kind of a special need or anything like that, fine, no problem. But in generally speaking, I think that people, Americans in the United States, are capable of learning a lot of information in a short amount of time. Now, that being said, the information that we should be learning in school, first grade through 12th grade, and even college, should include, which it is not currently and hasn't been for over 50 years now, all of the things that we need to know in order to be able to maintain a good country that's a strong country. So we need to know, what does it take to have a strong country? What does it take to have a free country? What does it take to have a good economy? How do you defend a free country? What are the rights that the individual citizens have? How often do they go over the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence and all that stuff in schools right now? I think nowhere near enough. A lot of people don't even know the difference between the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and Declaration of Independence. Maybe they think that they've heard of all these three things, but they all happen simultaneously at the exact same moment in time. History for most people begins the day they're born, and anything that happens before that, they really don't pay attention to, don't take it very seriously. So one of the things that I plan to do with my efforts is to help educate America on the things that are important that are not being taught in the public schools. So anyway, let me conclude by just letting you know that if somebody is coming to you with a whole bunch of vague words, you need to really find out, what do they mean by that? Rich people is a vague term. What do you mean by that? Free college, what's your plan specifically? I've never seen anybody so good at dodging questions as to how they're going to pay for a particular thing, other than, like, I've seen, Bernie Sanders tap dance around that when somebody tries to pin him down and say, well, how are you going to pay for that? And then he pivots and does all this other stuff. Politics, that's a real thing, isn't it? Anyway, so a good economy, let me just say the last thing here. A good economy comes when you've got people who are producing something of value. They're doing it in a short number of hours in the workday, and that thing of value that they are producing is something of value that the employer can sell for a lot more money. That's a very vague way of putting it, but the better your economy is where you have, there's a productivity index, which the name escapes me, but basically is you measure how many hours of work people put in a particular day, then how much productivity did they accomplish during those 8 hours, and then what's the value of the product that they produce during those 8 hours. There's an index and everything. The more value that your country can produce by everybody going to work, working their job and everything. And then once you do that, once you put in a good day's work, you deserve a paycheck, and you deserve all the money that you have earned. You see what I'm saying? So there's nothing wrong with that. That's how a free country works. That's how capitalism works. You provide something good, it gets marked up and sold to someone else. Somebody pays for that. You get a paycheck. You know, like, I don't know. More on that later. So anyway, I hope that clarifies Bernie Sanders' plan for free college. I'm sure that if you really go through all the details, you will find that you will live a miserable existence of a life if you spend every year of your life continuing to pay for other people to get their free college. And so I would strongly recommend a different path in your life. One where there's capitalism, prosperity for you and your family, and all of that. I'm Wheelgun Dan. Always navigate directly to wheelgundan.com directly so that you can find out what I'm doing. Follow me on Facebook, all that other kind of stuff. There's ways that you can help out my efforts. If you are listening to me or watching me in a place where you can enter comments, please do. Have at it. So, thank you for watching. Be sure to visit wheelgundan.com for all my latest activities and offerings. Thanks for watching. Howdy, I'm Wheelgun Dan. Welcome to my collection of videos. In this collection of videos, I'm going to talk about America, guns, and freedom. So welcome. Feel free to peruse the collection of videos. Should be a thing around here someplace to click like, subscribe, notifications. So enjoy yourself. What kind of bug is that over there? Okay, feel free to peruse the video collection anytime now.